After the Mauryas, India was divided into a number of kingdoms. The Shunga dynasty, founded by Pushyamitra, as well as the Kannavas, Satavahanas and Kharvelas of Odisha, influenced the subsequent history of northern India. In this chapter, we will learn the following concepts: Deccan, the Satavahanas, contact between South India and North India, and promotion of trade and commerce, Buddhist monuments, Cholas, Pandyas and Cheras, Roman trade, foreign invasions, art, religion. Mauryan period. In the Mauryan period, practically the whole of India, including Afghanistan, was under the control of a central authority in Patliputra. This lasted from 321 BC to 185 BC. After the Mauryas, India was divided into number of kingdoms. Shunga dynasty. The Shunga dynasty, founded by Pushyamitra, as well as the Kannavas, Satavahanas and Kherwals of Odisha, influenced the subsequent history of northern India. Likewise, in the south, the Satavahanas, Cholas, Pandyas and Cheras ruled and fought amongst themselves. These were native Indian ruling dynasties. Bactrians. Later, wave after wave of fierce, warlike races from Central Asia invaded North India. Bactrians, Sakas, Parthians and Kushanas. The sole redeeming feature of this influx was that all these foreign hoarders were absorbed by India. Perhaps hypnotized by India's wealth and serenity, they settled down in India and made it their home. India made contact with the outside world. Trade, both by land and sea, flourished. India was by now very prosperous. Sangam literature. Sangam literature is the most important source of information for reconstructing the history of the Deccan from 200 BC to 300 AD. We have read that the Puranas, Buddhists, Jains and other Hindu literature are valuable sources of the history of northern India. Similarly, Sangam literature is an important source of the history of the Cheras, Cholas, Pandyas and other rulers of South India. The Sangam literature is written in Tamil, the oldest among spoken literary languages of South India. The Pandya kings patronized these Sangams. Sangams were assemblies of leading poets and scholars. It is believed that the Sangam literature flowing from these Sangams was compiled from 500 BC to 500 AD. One of the important poetical works is Kural, a collection of verses. Literature produced by Sangam scholars is our main source of information about the activities of the common people and the establishment of colonies in Southeast Asia. Deccan. The Deccan, a British distortion of the Sanskrit word Dakkin meaning south or southern part of the Indian peninsula, was known as Dakshinapatha in ancient times. It was that part of India which lay to the south of the Vindhyas and the Narmada river. In south of the Deccan lived the Dravidian language-speaking people. Satavahanas. Satavahanas are also known as the Andhras. They encouraged trade and commerce. The most famous of the Satavahana kings was Gautamiputra Satakarni. Gautamiputra Satakarni was a great conqueror. He was described as the lord of Dakshinapatha. The Satavahana kingdom extended from the Krishna delta to the mouth of the Godavari river in the east and extended up to Nasik, the Kathiawar area, for some time, and a little beyond the Narmada into the north. Trade and commerce. The Satavahana kingdom acted as a bridge between South India and North India. Forests had been cleared and roads were built throughout the northern Deccan in the Godavari and Krishna valleys. This made it safer to travel through these areas. At the same time, new towns emerged in these parts due to the growth in trade and commerce. Many towns and cities arose in the region around Nasik, present-day Nashik, the Godavari Delta, and the area around Mumbai. Bharuch. On the western coast, the port of Bharuch provided ample scope for foreign trade. This port was used by the ships coming from Iraq, Persia, Arabia, and Egypt. Trade with Burma and Malaya was carried on through ports in the Godavari Delta on the eastern seaboard. The growth of trade and commerce boosted the prosperity of numerous towns and, in fact, that of the entire kingdom. Three Kingdoms. The three kingdoms, Chola, Pandya, and Chera or Kerala, arose sometime during the early history of South India. The main source of our knowledge about these kingdoms is the Sangam literature. Pandya Kingdom. Pandyas were first mentioned by Megasthenes. He says that the Pandya kingdom was famous for pearls. He also speaks of it being ruled by a woman. The Pandya territory occupied the southmost and the southern eastern portion of the Indian peninsula, covering Tirunelveli, Ramnand, and Madurai in Tamil Nadu. Madurai was the hub of the Pandya kingdom. Chola Kingdom. The Chola kingdom was called Cholamandalam or Coromandel. It was situated in an area to the northeast of the Pandya kingdom, between the Pennar and the Velar rivers. The chief center of this kingdom was Urayur, a place famous for its cotton trade. A Chola king named Elara conquered Sri Lanka and ruled over it for nearly 50 years. This proves that the Cholas had a fleet of large, seaworthy ships and were experts in naval warfare. The Chola capital was Kaveripattinam. The Chera or Kerala country was situated to the west and the north of the Pandya kingdom. It roughly included the narrow strip of land between the sea and the mountains covering a portion of the modern Kerala state. This kingdom owed its eminence to trade with the Romans. Among the kings of Kerala, one name shines the brightest, that of Neduncheral, a great hero who conquered many kingdoms and captured a Roman fleet at the coast of Malabar. The three kingdoms were greatly enriched by this. The Romans were interested in things such as spices, textiles, precious stones, birds, usually peacocks, and animals such as bears and monkeys. The markets of Rome were full of Indian luxury goods, there being great demand for these items. Roman ships came from the Red Sea across the Arabian Sea to the Malabar coast or sailed up to the Straits of Mannar to the eastern coast. Trade within the country flourished. Goods were sent from the south to the north of India. Shunga dynasty. The Shunga dynasty, founded by Pushyamitra, ruled for 112 years. The famous stupa of Sanchi near Bhopal was built during the Shunga era. The gateways and railings around the stupa were built during Satvahana rule. The Shungas were always at war with the Satavahanas and the Deccan powers, and also with Kharvela, king of Kalinga. Kharvela even attacked Patliputra. The Shungas were finally overthrown by the Kanvas. The rule of the Kanva dynasty was, however, short-lived. Death of Ashoka. After the death of Ashoka, his empire split up into many small kingdoms. The northwestern part of India now saw the coming of a number of warlike foreign races like the Bactrians, Parthians, Sakas, and Kushanas. They came in the years between 200 BC and 100 AD. The first to come were the Bactrian Greeks. They were also called the Indo-Greeks. During and after Alexander's campaign, they had settled in Iran and Afghanistan. The descendants of these rulers crossed the Hindu Kush mountains through the valley of the river Kabul. They poured into Gandhara, Kandhar, and occupied territories up to Punjab. We have been able to reconstruct their history with the help of their coins. They minted gold coins. A number of coins of their dynasty have been found. Greeks. The Greeks were followed by the Sakas. They captured a larger part of India than the Greeks. They came to western India and overran Sindh and Saurashtra. They finally settled down in Kathiawar and Malwa. The most famous Saka ruler in India was Rudradaman 130 to 150 AD. He ruled not only over Sindh, Kutch and Gujarat but had also recovered Konkan and Narmada Valley, Malwa and Kathiawar from the Satavahanas. The Kushanas, who originally belonged to Chinese Turkestan, arrived in Afghanistan in the 1st century AD. They first occupied Bactria or North Afghanistan by displacing the Sakas. Later, they occupied the lower Indus basin and a greater part of the Ganga plain. Their two major centers of power were Peshawar and Mathura.
Kushanas. Kanishka was the most famous Kushana ruler. His statue at Mathura shows him a well-built man. He conquered Kashmir, Punjab and Mathura. He patronized Buddhism. He organized a Buddhist council in Kashmir where the doctrines of Mahayana form of Buddhism was finalized. He gave money for building Buddhist monasteries. Kanishka was also a great patron of art and Sanskrit language.
Art. Contact with Western Asia brought Greek sculpture to northern India. Indian craftsmen, especially in the northwestern frontiers of India in Gandhara, were greatly influenced by this new style of sculpture. They adopted the style with local influences and thus gave rise to a new kind of art in which images of Buddha were made in the Greco-Roman style. This new style of art came to be known as Gandhara art. The influence of Gandhara art gave birth to the Mathura school of art. A famous specimen of this art is the headless statue of Kanishka found at Mathura. Contact with distant lands. India has played an important role in molding the civilization and culture of vast regions beyond the Himalayas and even overseas. Physical barriers did not prevent the movement of people from one part of the country to another or even overseas for that matter. The latter was possible because ships capable of making long sea voyages were being made in southern and western India. There were three main factors which led to the expansion of Indian contacts abroad. A. Trading activities. B. Desire for new markets. C. Missionary efforts to spread Indian religions and culture. The Indian traders and religious preachers took Indian culture and civilization to various parts of the world, especially Central Asia, China, and Southeast Asia. Right from the ancient times, India had connections with Southeast Asian countries, Egypt, Rome, Greece, Iran, Arabia, China, Tibet, Afghanistan, etc. Few countries in the world had developed such a widespread network of contacts as India. Ancient economic activities. There were vigorous economic activities throughout the ancient period in India. Bowls and plates made of northern black polished ware, a fine type of pottery, have been found at several archaeological sites in the subcontinent. Traders must have carried these wares to distant places. South India produced many spices, particularly black pepper, which was sent all over India and exported to Europe. Pepper was so highly valued in the Roman Empire that it was known as black gold. Exports to Rome. Indian muslin and pearls were also important exports to Rome. Silk, which was brought from China to India, was also supplied by Indian traders to the Roman Empire. More than 100 Roman gold coins have so far been found in India. Most of them are found near ancient South Indian ports such as Arikamedu, close to modern Puducherry. Many Indian commodities such as ivory artifacts, gems and jewelry have been found in the West. Trade routes. In the ancient period, several trade routes over land as well as sea were explored by traders. These routes were spread along the subcontinent, some of them leading to Central and West Asia. Peninsular ports played a vital role in trade with the countries of the Mediterranean region and with Southeast Asian countries. Swarnadvipa. The Southeast Asian region was famous as Swarnadvipa, the land of gold. It was also known for its rich spices, metals and minerals. From the earliest times, Indians had travelled to this region for trade and adventure. These traders also indirectly conveyed glimpses of India's rich culture and civilization. Many Indian traders in the early period used to buy spices from Southeast Asian countries and sell them to Roman traders and other countries of the West. Many Indian merchants settled in Southeast Asian countries. Gradually, many features of Indian culture were adopted by the people of Southeast Asian countries. Champa. In Champa, Vietnam, the first Indian kingdom was founded in the latter half of the 2nd century AD. A large number of Hindu temples were built there. Indian festivals were celebrated with great enthusiasm. A grand temple was constructed at the capital, Amravati. A succession of Hindu dynasties ruled over Champa till the 15th century, when it was overrun by the Mongols. Cambodia. In Kambodja, Cambodia, a Brahmin laid the foundations of the Kaudian dynasty in the 1st century AD. The kings of this dynasty followed Hindu customs and laws. Sanskrit was the official language. Ramayana, Mahabharata and the Puranas became very popular there. Sumatra. Sumatra is the second largest island of the Malay archipelago. The Sri Vijaya dynasty ruled in Sumatra between the 3rd and 8th centuries AD. The kings of this dynasty built a large number of Hindu temples. After the coming of King Sailendra, Buddhism increased in popularity. Hindu rule was also established in Bali, Malaya and Borneo. After Buddhism took root at these places, Indians were encouraged to increase contacts with the Southeast Asian countries. Roman Empire. Augustus Caesar, 27 BC to 14 AD, laid the foundations of the great Roman Empire. It included the territories of Italy, Greece, Spain, France, England, coastal areas of North Africa, Egypt, Syria, Asia Minor, etc. During that period, close commercial relations developed between India and the Roman Empire. Trade. The cities of Roman Egypt and others in the Mediterranean basin maintained trade relations with ancient port towns such as Barigaza, Surat, Puhar, Kaveripattinam, Muziris, Kochi, Poduke, Arikamedu, Tamluk, Tamralipti, Kalinga, etc. The book Periplus C, written by an anonymous author, describes in detail the trade activities that took place between India and the Roman Empire. Certain items were first brought to India from China and Central Asia and were then sent to the eastern parts of the Roman Empire. Rome's export to India included wine and many types of pottery, gold and silver coins, silver ornaments, large glass jars and bowls, bronze stands, bronze pots, and small bronze statues. It seems that coiled strips of lead were also exported from Rome to India. The Satavahana kings of Andhra used this lead to make coins. Buddhism. Buddha's teachings were simple and attracted a large number of followers. Buddha preached in Pali, the language of the common people. He led a simple and virtuous life. The Buddhist monks did selfless service to spread Buddhism, and many kings became followers of Buddhism. Buddhism, born in Magadha, Bihar, ultimately spread to many parts of the known world. Kings like Ashoka and Kanishka took vigorous steps to spread this religion not only in India but also in foreign countries. Kanishka and Ashoka sent missionaries to Southeast Asia. Today, Buddhism is a world religion. It is also casteless, hence it attracts those wishing to sidestep the caste system. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar converted to Buddhism just before his death on December 6, 1956. Bhakti. An important development of this time was the beginning of the Bhakti cult. The concept of Bhakti originates from the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita is a part of the great epic, the Mahabharata. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna asks his devotee Arjuna to surrender in him, as only he, Krishna, can set him, Arjuna, free from every evil. The term Bhakti means devotion or complete, unquestioning surrender before the Lord. Bhakti comes from the Sanskrit word bhaja, which means to share bhaga or good fortune by the blessing of God. The devotee is known as a bhakta. In bhakti, there is no place for desire, only sacrifice. Bhakti does not allow any Brahmanic creeds or rituals. Bhaktism emphasizes devotion and individual worship of the god or goddess. Devotion requires a pure heart. Only then will the desired god appear before a devotee in the form in which the devotee desires.